This one trick will help take your sales to the absolute next level. Hello and welcome to the Sales Circle podcast. You know by now, boys and girls, the Sales Circle podcast is the podcast designed to help you improve your sales. Listen, we all work in sales to some degree, right? Of course, you may be listening or watching this as a salesperson, an entrepreneur, a business owner, then absolutely, sales, and I'll always argue this, is the most important part to any business function. If you're not selling, you don't have a business. But my whole argument is that no matter what job line you're in, you have to sell. If you are a marketer, you have to sell to your customers, to your clients, that a certain idea is good to help them take their sales and brand awareness to the next level, right? If you're a business owner, you've sometimes got to sell the idea of someone joining your company. Sometimes as a supplier, you've got to, sell your idea, to get into a new company. Sometimes as a manufacturer, you've got to sell the idea of getting a discount on products, parts, and everything else in between, right? We've all got to sell. When we sell, we persuade, we influence. And the Sales Circle podcast is designed to come out every single week and to give you the ideas, the motivation, the mindset, to share some stories to help you improve your sales. My name is Rob Spence, your host. I'm an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and the managing director of a multi-award-winning sales and marketing agency called Paragon Sales Solutions. And welcome to today's episode of the Sales Circle. Now, hopefully the editors have cut everything out that happened at the start of the podcast. I've had such a fiasco. Between you and I, my cat woke me up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't feel sorry for him, but I think he's going through some form of separation anxiety. So whenever I shut the door at night, he's got a habit of tearing apart the carpets, beating down the door, and literally forcing it open. It's a ring roll. So I've been up very early, going to the offices. I think I got here about 6:20, and at the time of recording, it's about sort of 7:10 in the morning. So there's been a right fiasco getting this all set up. But I'm so excited. I'm loving recording these episodes for you, and I'm loving the feedback that you're giving about the episodes as well. Today, we're going to be talking about the number one thing that's going to change your prospecting game. It's going to take your prospecting to the absolute next level. We know in sales that there's multiple parts of the sales process. And in an episode recently, we discussed probably what are some of the most important parts of that sales process. Today, we're going to be talking about prospecting in particular, along with some other things, but we're going to talk about prospecting. But most importantly, we're going to talk about the number one thing that you should be doing right now, but absolutely, as we slowly move toward 2026, the thing that you should be doing to help you increase your prospecting game, to get more inquiries, to get more leads, to get to the stage of that sales process where you can quote and, of course, pitch and then close. Before we go on to the main part of the episode, please do hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, no matter where you're getting the content, and let's crack on with the main part. So I've been quite elusive so far, haven't I, about what the episode's all about, although I've no doubt it's what's in the title. We're going to be talking about hyper-personalisation, and we're going to be talking about how tailoring your sales will help you get better results. And although I'm going to focus this a little bit on prospecting, I also want us to bear in mind that idea around hyper-personalisation, in particular for also any part of the sales process. Listen, I believe, and I talk about this often on the podcast in a lot of my books, we all sell human to human, right? Whenever we are selling anything, whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C, we are selling human to human. And I think, especially as we move towards this digital age, the AI age, the automation age, that I think we value being loved and wanted more. We value that human connection more and more and more, right? And that's where personalization and absolute hyper-personalization comes into play. And of course, personalization isn't a new thing. And you're probably going, yeah, well, my automation tool can put hi in square brackets first name. Of course, that is personalization to some degree. You're using names and so on and so forth. But it goes far beyond an email subject line. It goes far beyond a greeting. For me, hyper-personalization shows the buyer. It says, actually, listen, I understand you. I understand your problem. I want to be able to help you. Being able to personalize any form of content, any form of outreach, prospecting, proposal, pitching, it shows to your prospect that you truly want to do business with them. Now, I love an analogy on this podcast. I do, right? Normally, I gravitate towards one of two, either football or Tinder, believe it or not. And I want us to think about Tinder or any online dating platforms, whether it's Hinge, Bumble, Grindr, whatever you want to say, right? If you just copy and paste the same message to your 100 matches on Tinder, are you necessarily going to find the love of your life? No. Yeah, you might get some quick wins, for want of a better term. You might get some dates out of it. You might get some responses. But if you just use the same copy and pasted response, you're not necessarily going to find that true connection. Again, if we're hyper-personalizing our messaging, then we may just do that. And it's not just me that thinks this. Data backs it up. You know I love a statistic. I've got this one from Epsilon that says 80% of consumers are more likely to do business with a brand that offers personalized experiences. And then McKinsey say that B2B companies using advanced personalization see up to a 20% increase in sales opportunities. So my word, if you are not personalizing, we've got two statistics there that really add up. I want to focus on the McKinsey one for a second. If you hyper-personalize, right, you may see a 20% increase in your sales opportunities. I bet if I asked you right now, do you want to see an increase in your commissions by 20%? Or if I said to your boss, do you want to see your sales increase by 20%? Or if I said to you as a business owner, hey, listen, do you want to see your business rise in revenue by 20%? I have no doubt you are going to say, yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. Maybe personalization is the key that holds a secret to sales success. Let's jump in a bit deeper. As I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, the idea, the theory, the use of personalization isn't anything new, right? I probably get dozens of emails a day, normally with hi, first name, hi, Mr. Surname, or anything else in between. Sometimes it goes horrendously wrong. Let's not beat around the bush. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. So personalization has been around for a while. But personalization, in my opinion, goes far deeper than just that hi first name, hi that second name, hi Mr. at company name. Hyper-personalization goes right back to what we always preach about in my book, Relationship Selling, in some of the books that have been recommended, in this not green screen, by the way. Someone said that this was green screen. Don't know if you can hear that. That is not green screen. Look, Mr. Man is swinging there. Just to maybe explain this, this is a guy, and if you can't see this, go watch on YouTube. This is a guy climbing to success, is what I said. That's why he's there. So when we're hyper-personalizing, we're going to the deep in the heart of the relationship, of the rapport, of that connection, right? It's not just a name. And I've picked out 5 things that we can potentially do to really start to hyper-personalize things. Now, if there's one thing I want you to take away from today's episode, is take 2 or 3 of these and start to integrate them in your prospecting, in your social media outreach, in your cold calling, in your pitching, in your presenting, in your objection handling. I want you to think about hyper-personalization at every step of the way. Alongside that, if you are continuously using AI and automation to follow up in, prospecting, in sending messages, stop straight away. Please, for the love of God, stop straight away. I love AI and automation for the sense of saving time on admin and medial tasks, but for any kind of follow-up, stop. You're human, for God's sake. You're speaking to humans. Let's keep it that way, at least for now, right? So number one, the number one is given, and this absolutely works really well for B2B, but we can tailor it to a B2C setting. Research. If you don't know who you're speaking to, whether it be the individual or the person, you're really leaving money on the table. You know, we live in an age of information, social media, websites, LinkedIn, recent news, blogs. Of course, they're going to hold information about the person we're speaking to and the problems and everything else. Of course, there are various AI and various tools out there, such as Crystal Nose or Lusher, that may ingest that information and give us a synopsis. Of course, sometimes you may use even just ChatGPT or Grok to do that. But just do some manual research. I remember when I used to sell fine food ingredients, I used to, every time I'd made a call to someone, have a quick look through their website and their social media. Because what these people would do is they'd share events that they've got coming up. They'd share menus. They'd share their recent awards. It allowed me things to talk about. It allowed me conversational hooks. Oh, congratulations on the recent award. Oh, see, you've got a James Bond night coming up. How's that all going? Blah, blah, blah. But what that allowed me to do is to do some research and understand what they potentially may need. If I can see that, let's just use James Bond night, right? My head's automatically gone to olives. Where are you getting your olives from for this James Bond night? Also, you're doing a fillet steak. Where are you getting your fillet from? What about your duck breasts? How much are you paying on your duck breasts, by the way? It allowed those conversations to happen. Instead of me just calling up and saying, hi, chef, do you need any food or ingredients from me today? Yes or no kind of question. I'm still able to say, listen, do you need anything for the weekend, chef? Yeah, listen, while I've got you, I've seen you've got this menu on. Where are you sourcing this from? Where have you got that from? Doing a great price on this other menu. Do you want me to get some on back order for you? It allows that sales conversation to go on. So please, for the love of God, research. Of course, we can segment and score. So what we want to do is, whether it be mentally or whether we track it on our CRM system, is we want to create those customer personas by the vertical, the role, and common challenges, and sometimes as well by the customer and consumer type. That allows us once again to tailor our pitch, tailor our questioning to whatever they need to do. We can utilize tools to look at behavior-based triggers. Now, they could be visiting a website, opening an email, or even engaging with us on LinkedIn, or even still finding trigger events on LinkedIn that gives us a reason to talk to someone. So, the idea will be, and we'll come on to this in step 4, actually, we'll talk about that on step 4. But there are tools that we can implement on our website. Lead Forensics offers a great tool that allows us to see who has tracked the website. It also allows us to kind of see what page has been on, which allows us to then call that prospect up and tailor our communication around the pages that they've shown the most interest in. There are tools that will allow us to see when people have opened an email, how many times they've opened an email. There are even tools now where you can see when someone has opened a proposal, how many times they've opened a proposal, and what pages they've looked at the most. Again, these cause these kind of trigger events that allow us to then engage, which moves us on to step 4, which is then that customized messaging. Again, customized messaging goes much further past hi first name, hi Mr. Surname, hi Mrs. Surname. It goes into trigger events that allow those conversations. I've got a big bugbear with, and I talk about it a lot on the pod, where we say, don't just follow up. Sales, in my opinion, without dumbing it down too much, are just conversations that lead to some form of influence and persuasion. Whenever I get asked, how do I open up this? How should I confront this? Sometimes in my head just goes to just have a conversation. Just have a conversation, ask questions, discover things. And, even it goes back to when clients or prospects ghost you. If someone's ghosting you, wait for those trigger events and then spark that conversation. So instead of saying words upon the effect of, hi, Mr. Spence, I saw, I work for a company and we do this and we do that. I'd love the chance to speak to you. Here's my booking link. We can say words to the effect of, hey, hey, Rob, I saw you recently got promoted to head of sales. Congratulations. Been watching your career for a little while now. How do you feel about the whole new move? That's all we're saying in message 1. We're not asking the person for a date. We're not asking the person to marry us. We're just starting that conversation. We can allow that conversation to flow. And then all of a sudden, when that rapport, that trust is built, we can say, listen, I know you're just settling into the job, but we recently worked with a client very similar to yours. Would love to do the same for you. Let's find time to talk, right? Conversations don't have to be hard. And this is where those behavior-based triggers and these customized messaging really help that hyper-personalisation route. We could say, listen, I saw your blog post on logistics. It really caught my eye. It could be that maybe you've got a trigger event and you want to share that with the company. And, don't pen this word for word, but the conversation changes from, hi, I work for Paragon. I'd love to work with you. We could say words to the effect of, hey, Smith, how you doing? Hope you're good. Listen, I saw you just started a podcast. I'm not too sure if you're aware. We've recently published a blog on the best ways to boost and market your podcast. I've dropped the link below. Check it out. If you've got any questions, let me know. Just want to make you see a good success on this. What we're not doing is, once again, selling in the first message. We're not sort of trying to ask that person on the first date, for a first date on the first message. What we're doing is we are trying to start that conversation. And then when that conversation gets to that sort of tipping point, we can then, if we feel relevant, turn it into a sales conversation. And of course, this one is a big, big thing for me, especially when it comes to any form of pitching and even during the prospect phase. Create a solution map to all of the problems or pain points that your prospect may have. Again, the best salespeople in the world will seek out those pain points, those problem points, and then all they've got to do is solution map the benefits of their solutions. Some people will call up and just pitch what they want to pitch. They'll call up and say, hello, my name's Rob and I work for a telemarketing agency and we generate leads and appointments. Again, they just read from a script and it's boring, it's slow, it's horrible. It's horrible for the prospect to listen to. But instead, if that salesperson says, listen, how many bookings and appointments are you getting per month? Okay, and what's your conversion rate? Right, and are you hitting your sales targets at the minute? Okay. So what you're saying is if you got more appointments per month, you're probably going to then convert an extra 2 sales per month. And that would you say that's going to hit your target? It is. Okay. Listen, I work for a telemarketing agency and we just set a company, 20 leads last month for, for a company, very similar to yours. Would love to see how I can help you hit your sales targets moving forward. Shall we grab a coffee next week? It's as simple as that. What we've got to do is we've got to solution map our products and services, our benefits to the pain points that are delivered. Remember, people don't buy products. No one buys anything for what the thing is. They buy the solutions. They buy the outcomes, right? I didn't buy this bookcase because I wanted a bookcase. I bought the bookcase to hold the books, to store the books. I didn't buy this microphone because I woke up one day, do you know what? I want a microphone. I bought this microphone because it was one of the best on the market for podcasts. People buy the outcomes, not the products. So remember, just before we move on to listeners' questions, the way in which you are going to really sell in 2026 and of course now is to hyper-personalize, right? Absolutely hyper-personalize. Go for quality, not just quantity, right? Of course, AI can do some of that for you, but people will still buy on that human connection. So start to think about in your prospecting, your pitching, your questioning techniques, how can you hyper-personalize your product, your service, your business to your prospects' needs? Just before we do go on to listeners' questions, don't forget we are proudly partnered with Monday.com CRM, a fantastic CRM system that's easy to use, it's not too expensive, and will be great for you and your team. As a thank you for checking out the Sales Circle podcast, there is a link below for you to get some free access and some other little goodies. Whether you already use a CRM system, whether you use various tools, Monday.com not only will tie in and will normally have some form of link to that CRM system, but you may find that Monday.com CRM is far better, far more intuitive, far more fun, and less clunky and funky to use than the majority of the CRM systems on the market. Do go check out the link in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. So we move swiftly on to the listeners' questions. As always, if you've got any burning questions about sales, about marketing, about business growth, and maybe you want a sales expert to read those out and answer them for you, then all you've got to do is comment anywhere on social media, messages on social media, or email in to thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com. I've got the first question here from Sarah, who says, how do I personalize at scale without spending hours on each prospect? Listen, Sarah, I think, again, what I said a second ago is when we prospect, I believe that it's far better to do quality over quantity, right? There's many sales managers, many sales bosses out there, right, who are very old school and they think that it's far better to contact 200 people a day. It's a numbers game, right? To some degree, yes, absolutely. We've got to keep those numbers high because to some degree, yes, sales is a numbers game. But actually, sometimes quality is better over quantity, right? Again, if we think about we're sowing a field full of seeds, right? Let's say we've got 1,000 seeds and we're sowing those seeds onto the ground and we've not checked the ground, we've not towed the ground, we've not checked for stones. We didn't realize that a part of the field has been hyper flooded and so no seeds will grow there. Over another side, it's all rocky, so no seeds will grow there. It sounds like something from the Bible, right? In another area, there are a flock of crows that constantly, eat the seeds. Of course, we can walk out there and sow the seeds, and of course, we will get some crop. But we've actually wasted maybe 40 to 50% of our seed because we've not prepped and planned and supported the ground. But actually, if we prepare and we hyper-personalize our seed planting for each soil, we are going to see a further increase in the amount of plants or fruit we're going to harvest later on. Could we put down a scarecrow? Could we drain the soil? Could we till it and get it ready first? Can we remove the stones and the rockery? By preparing, you get a better outcome. Of course, we can sort of get a sort of formula and then just personalize maybe the intro, the pain point, and the offer. That sometimes helps. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. But Sarah, I'd say start to think about start to think about quality over quantity, and you'll see a much better increase. Lewis says, what if I don't have much information on a lead? Should I still personalize? Absolutely. There is always something. There is always something, whether it is a name, a job title, the industry trends, maybe shared connections. There is always something somewhere about someone, right? Always something somewhere. It's very rare that, people are an unknown entity. And even if they are hard to find, make that as part of your personalization. John, full transparency, normally I do some research on a prospect before I outreach. However, you are probably the hardest person I've ever tried to research. Do you work for the MI5? Have some fun with it, engage, have a conversation. That may then spark that conversation of, yeah, listen, I'm old school. I don't really believe in social media. I have to keep myself to myself. Oh, that's fair enough. It's a great way of doing it. It starts that conversation, right? And finally, Amira says, isn't hyper-personalisation more of a marketing thing? Well, to some degree, yes, it started there, but I see it as a sales strategy. I do believe, and maybe we should do an episode about this, I do believe that, sales, the line between sales and marketing is tighter now than it ever has been. There's no need for sales versus marketing or marketing versus sales. To some degree, they are there. To some degree, they're all as one, right? But listen, yes is the answer, but you are a marketeer as well. If you are prospecting for yourself, if you're setting your own appointments, if you're setting your own leads, you've got to hyper-personalize. I always spin this around. I think sometimes salespeople forget that they are consumers as well. And if you walked into a sofa store and the the sales rep didn't ask you about you, your home life, how many kids you've got, what your family life's like, what you're going to be using the sofa for, and just said, you need to buy this sofa. You need to buy this sofa. I'm not going to listen to you. Buy this sofa. And they don't hyper-personalize their pitch. Would that put you off? Would that make you feel a bit uneasy? Would that make you feel a bit lost, a bit upset? Of course it would. So if that's the case, then why are we then allowing ourselves to not personalize for our prospects? So yeah, I say, listen, it started there, but it's absolutely a sales strategy as well. So thanks so much for those questions. We'll move swiftly on to the book recommendation of the week. So by now, you should know every single week I pick out a book from my real bookcase. You can tell that green screen comment hit a nerve with me, didn't it? We're going to talk about, every week we pull out a book that has helped formulated my career, that has taught me things that I have enjoyed, and a book that I'd like to recommend. The reason I recommend these books is because I believe that the more we learn, the more we earn, right? And today's book recommendation of the week is by Alison Edgar, and it's called Secrets of Successful Sales. Now, Alison Edgar pens herself as the entrepreneur's godmother, and she's a beautiful lady. I don't know if that's going to focus there on the back. Beautiful lady. Now, this book, I don't think it's that old. 4 or 5 years ago, 2018, first published. It's got some great praise within there as well. Now, I'll tell you what, I'll read the blurb for you. It says, if you don't sell, you don't have a business. Words taken from my heart. In Secrets of Successful Sales, Alison Edgar, the entrepreneur's godmother, brings together psychology and sales to help you develop a winning strategy for increasing sales and growing your business. Centered around Alison's 4 key pillars of sales methodology, this book enables you to understand customer behaviors, provides you with a foolproof process, explains how to create an effective strategy, and close with confidence. So if you are looking for a sales book that isn't too thick, isn't going to absolutely kill you, the font's, not too hard to read, you could digest this in a few hours, I've no idea. But if you're looking for a great book to read, then this one is for you. As always, we'll drop a link for you to get your own copy in the comments or the show notes below. And that about wraps us up for another episode of the Sales Circle podcast. We've talked today about hyper-personalisation. Now, for me, personalisation is a given. It's not something we should be talking about. It's something we should just do. If you are constantly copying and pasting the same email, the same LinkedIn message, using the same script, if you are using, the same spiel on every single person you speak to, then you're not going to get very far very soon. It's very, very important that you hyper-personalize things. The more you personalize, the better results you are going to get. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Sales Circle podcast. I've been Rob Spence, and I always will be Rob Spence. As a reminder, these episodes come out every single Thursday without fail, And as it stands, we are bulk recording and editing. So up until the end of the season, you will see an episode from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a quick reminder, do me a favor, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you share it with 1 or 2 of your peers. Until next time, all the best. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.